Well, thank you, Haniel, and thank you for having me. Let me see if I am on. Yeah, can Haniel, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Well, what I want to do is just take a minute and go ahead and introduce you to each one of our panelists today. You can see them up on the screen right now. Shelley Simpson is the EVP and the Chief Customer Officer and President of Highway Services for J.B. Hunt. Tracy Rosser is the Executive Vice President of Operations for Transplace and a long-term fellow Walmart logistics leader. And then Dr. Matt Waller is the Dean of the Sam Walton Business School at the University of Arkansas. All three of these individuals I have had the pleasure of knowing, interacting with, and having a relationship with for probably over 20 or 25 years. So it's just been a long time, and I have the utmost respect for each one of these folks. Before we launch into the questions, though, what I want to do real quick, Matt, is recognize you and give you just a minute to talk about what Donnie just talked about and what the recent recognition that the University of Arkansas Supply Chain Department received. So talk about that for just a minute, Matt, before we get started.
Chris, thank you so much. It's great to see you. It's great to see Tracy and Shelley, and thank you to Plug and Play for having us. I'm pretty excited, as you could imagine. I mean, we started this Department of Supply Chain Management in 2011. Prior to that, it was a transportation logistics focus in the marketing department. Once we became a separate department, we really flourished, and now we're graduating. We're the third biggest department in the college in terms of number of students graduating, and one of the largest in the country. So we went from having maybe 50 students graduate per year to several hundred, and they get great jobs and all. But one thing I like about the Gartner ranking compared to a lot of others, a lot of the other rankings are very subjective in terms of just people's opinions about your program. Gartner has a very specific approach that uses three things. One is industry value, which is based on surveys. Two is program scope. So they actually look at the kind of courses we teach and what the curriculum is. I don't think there's any other ranking institute that does that. And then the third is the size of the program. But yeah, so 6 years ago, I guess it would have been 4 years ago, we weren't ranked by their system. And then 2 years ago, we were 15th. And then this year, number one. And I think, the chair of our supply chain department, Brian Fugit, is just a great leader. But we're fortunate. I mean, Northwest Arkansas has so many great companies. They're either great in supply chain management or they're great at providing supply chain management logistics services. And so our students, a high percentage of them work while they're going to school. They get internships and things like this, and that really helps them hit the ground running, when they get out. And it helps us in the eyes of employers. So thanks to all of you. And recently, especially since Plug and Play has been here, we have more and more students working in supply chain logistics, young companies. I was going to say startups, but startups to growth companies. And I think it's great if a student can have experience with a Fortune 500 company on the one hand, and then also, something from a startup to a growth company while they're in school. So that's all I'll say about it, but I'm pretty excited. So thank you, Chris, for asking. I appreciate that.
Matt, it's pretty amazing when you think about back in the mid-90s when you and John Osmond and that small group of professors I had brought to SAMS to teach replenishment theory and what's happened with that department since the mid-90s. So congratulations to you and congratulations to the team. Huge accomplishment, huge accomplishment. And you deserve a lot of the personal credit.
Well, that's kind of you. But especially when you were at Sam's and Walmart, you always had us involved, and it made a big difference. And So did Tracy, and Shelley and I have been collaborating for many years. So these kinds of, and Greg Kessman and many others on this. So thanks to all of you. Appreciate it.
You bet. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into the first question. And Shelley, I'm going to get you to start off from the standpoint of responses. But the first question that I've got for you is, with everything that's gone on with the pandemic, talk about what you have done and what JB Hunt has done to ensure service, and then balance the service piece of the question with how you have also been able to have a sensitivity to workplace safety. So Shelley, if you would, go ahead and start that off.
Okay, thank you, Chris. And Dean Waller, you give me hope for our Arkansas Razorbacks that we can go from not ranked to 16th to number 1. So thank you for that.
Great comment.
So we have been very focused on our customers. During our earnings call after first quarter, we talked about our 2 priorities. The first was the safety and well-being of our people, and that is our number 1 priority. And the second one was meeting the promises of our customers. And that primarily was because everything else was very foggy for us. Our crystal ball was broken, and we weren't sure what else we could really put our thumb on to say we could make sure that we could complete. But we knew if we focused on those 2 things, Chris, that we would be successful overall. So we have centered around our customers and what that means for them, understanding, if you can just imagine what's happened in logistics here over the last 3 months, it literally has been probably the biggest roller coaster in my 26-year career. And that includes the recession that happened. You know, recession came back slowly. This has been up and down and back up very quickly. And so our ability to react to those supply chain needs have been front and center for us, front and center for our customers, and that's where we have been focused. Having said that, when we think about the safety of our people, you know, you think about who is essential, Chris, for us. Many of our employees are essential, and they don't have the option to work from home. So 20,000 of our drivers, our maintenance technicians, and anyone there on our front line helping support those, we're still on the front line through this entire pandemic overall. But one of the things that we focused on was how we could use technology to really allow us to have a safer working environment, not only for us, but also for our customers and our carriers that we do business with. And so we did roll out an electronic bill of lading through really a touchless experience for both our customers and our drivers overall. And that has been well received from our customers. I think it's something that's very needed from an industry perspective, just so that we can move out of that very archaic paper trail to something more digital. I do agree with what Donnie was saying, that things have sped up and digitization has become more important now than ever, especially since we are disconnected. But that's been some of the focus that we've had here at JB Hunt.
Thank you, Shelley. Great answer. I tell you, it's going to be interesting in a minute when we get to some of the startup companies, because I think a couple of them are focused on just what you talked about workplace safety and how to ensure workplace safety. So thank you very much, Shelley. Tracy, let's go to you. Let's talk about the same thing from a Transplace perspective. Very different at Transplace. You don't have, like Shelley does, all those drivers and maintenance technicians and things like that. So talk about what you guys at Transplace have done to ensure that you protect service, but also ensure that you're thinking about safety.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Chris, and thank you for the opportunity to be here and visit with y'all. And congratulations, Dean Waller, on the ranking, to you and Donnie and your team. Shelley, I'd also say thanks to all your frontline people, the drivers out there who are making things happen day in, day out. Y'all are certainly a big carrier and provider for a lot of our customers as well. So thank you very much. Chris, just for context, yeah, you mentioned that Transplace has a little bit different business model than what JB Hunt does. So we're a transportation logistics technology platform company, and we manage about $10 billion, just over $10 billion of freight for our customers. And we provide execution, visibility, services, and intelligence, transportation intelligence, both across North America and globally in the ocean and air arena. So we are a little bit different in terms of the scope of what we do geographically. I'll tell you, this thing was really interesting for us as we started off, because we were paying very close attention to what was happening in Asia, given our global footprint. And so just a couple of dates for reference. The Wuhan lockdown was on 1/23, and the first case in the US was on 1/22. And I remember on January 31st, the Chinese New Year was extended. And there started to be, the plant shutdowns, manufacturing shutdowns, container disruption and imbalances were starting, and there were driver shortages in Asia. And so we started trying to really think about how we work through those disruptions in Asia for our customers, and then also what were the implications domestically. And at that point in time, we started thinking about, okay, what if that happens here? We already have our first case in Washington. And so we pulled out our guiding principles as a company and said, okay, what's important to us? So just like Shelley mentioned, the safety of our people is first and foremost, because if we don't have them, we can't serve our customers. And then we wanted to maximize our service to our customers and minimize our supply chain impact. And so we looked at those guiding principles. We dusted off business continuity plans that were in place for things like severe weather and whatnot, and said, what if we have to deploy off-site? And so we took 3 customers and immediately baited with 3 customers to determine, across all of our operating centers across North America, what are the capabilities that we need to have? What are the necessities that we need to have? And we learned a lot. And then very shortly after, we deployed over the course of about 3 to 4 days the entire exit of our workforce remotely. And we could not have done that had we not had technology to support it. We also, most of our freight flows through our TMS platform, that is proprietary TMS platform that functions on the cloud for both internal and our SaaS customers. So we relied heavily on technology, but more than anything, we relied on our great people who are adaptive, agile, flexible, to really get things done for us. And we could not have done it without great leaders and great people and great processes that were anchored in really good technology. We knew we had to support our customers first and foremost. And what customers really were relying on, and I know we're going to get to it a little bit later, is in the importance of innovation. But recent investments that we've made in innovation around visibility, connectivity to motor carriers, our control tower, and how we communicate with our customers in terms of information flow from a demand forecasting standpoint, all of those things kind of came together to help us execute for customers whose volumes were skyrocketing, but also for customers who had the other side of the coin, because we're big in the CPG business, chemical business, automotive businesses, and other retailers. But we had customers whose business were in decline, and they had vastly different needs that we had to meet. And so we had to support them with also technology and data to help them become most efficient as their business changed. So I know we'll get into a little bit more detail, but those are some of the things that really come to mind, Chris, as I think about how we started initiating our approach into this new world that we're in.
Thank you, Tracy. Yeah, that's going to be a great segue in just a minute to talking about innovation. So I appreciate you mentioning those things just now between visibility and control towers and things like that. Okay, let's go on. Matt, if you could kind of give a different perspective, I think it'd be real interesting for the audience to hear it from a university, a public university, and how you do learning and teaching and everything else. So this same question about how you take care of your, quote, customers, and I know your customers look a little different, but then also how you protect your people. So Matt, talk about it from a university perspective.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. When we decided to basically close the campus, we had to continue with teaching and our other missions, including research. And there was so much uncertainty, right? I mean, there's still a lot of uncertainty, but people really didn't know what was going on at that point. And so I'll mention a few things, but I want to mention a tool that we use that might be useful to anyone listening. For a long time, I've really liked the leadership model of John Kotter. John Kotter, if you've read his stuff, he kind of looks at leadership. He looks at the what of leadership. That is, what does a leader do? And he boils it down to three things. A leader sets direction, a leader gains alignment, and a leader provides motivation. Now, when he says a leader sets direction, that doesn't mean that they don't use other people to set direction. They do use other people. But generally speaking, those are the three whats of leadership. And then there's another author that I really like, Anna Konda, who her framework is different. It focuses more on how leaders lead. So Kotter focuses on what they do to lead, but she focuses on how they go about actually leading. And there's four, she's boiled it down to four, and I've been studying this for over 35 years. I've been interested in leadership for a long time, and I think these two frameworks are really good. But the four things of how include relating, right? Obviously, whether you're setting direction, gaining alignment, or providing motivation, you've got to relate to people. The second one is what's called sense making. And sense making is the ability to look at trends and events and things that are going on in the world and internally in your organization and put it together in a way that is easy to understand and makes sense for what the company should do or is doing. And then the third one is inventing. No matter what you're leading through, right? You come upon roadblocks, problems. You've got to invent ways around it. And then the fourth one is visioning. And visioning just means being able to articulate where we're going in a way that it creates a mental picture in a person's mind so they can get there. Well, what we've done is we combine those two models into a grid. Across the top, we have set direction, gain alignment, provide motivation. And then down each of the lines, it's relating, inventing, sense making, and visioning. So you basically wind up with a 12-cell grid. Why this is relevant to this is that, and I'll give you the full names of the authors. Someone asked for that. I'll give that in just a second. But the reason that's so helpful to have a grid like this, right? When you get into a crisis like this, frameworks help. Anything to reduce equivocality and uncertainty in how you're thinking about the situation helps. And so we quickly started filling it out, this grid. Just as an example, on the upper left-hand corner of the grid, it would be setting direction and relating. Okay, so we're getting ready to go off campus. Students are going to be leaving campus. They're either going home or they're going to their apartments. Faculty will be teaching from home, and staff will be working remotely. So you've got to set direction. Even if it's not complete, it's got to be set, and it's got to be done in a way that relates to people. So this is why this grid is so helpful. So we asked ourselves as a team, how can we do that? So one of the first things we did is we sent out an email out to faculty, staff, and students. They're actually different emails, but that basically said, hey, this is a big problem. You know, we're facing a difficult time. It's going to be hard as a student, if you've ever taken an online class, to learn that way. But we're going to be providing you resources to help you do that. If you're a professor, you're going to have trouble teaching in this way, et cetera, et cetera. But we also backed up and we said, look, The Walton College was formed in 1928. We made it through the Great Depression. We made it through World War II. In World War II, the attendance in the Walton College was cut down to 1/3 of what it was before World War II. And the point we tried to make in the email is people are resilient and you are resilient. We will get through this, but we're going to have to make changes. This is not business as usual. So that's why it's setting direction and relating, right? I won't go through all of them, but you can imagine, there's all kinds of elements of this grid. By the way, there's a good article from John Kotter in the Harvard Business Review. It's in 2001. I think it's called What Leaders Do or something like that. I don't remember the names of these articles. And the other one is also in the Harvard Business Review. And it's Deborah Anacona. She's the lead author. Thomas Malone, and there's two other authors I don't recall. But that was 2007. And I can, if anyone's interested, I can provide that, but I can also provide our grid that we create. So I quickly applied that grid, our team did, and what it helps you do is figure out where you're missing things. And so I have an example of that. But trying to keep people safe and still get the job done is a big challenge. One of the benefits of a university is density, having lots of people together. And that is not a good thing when it comes to a pandemic. So we have been working every day. We've got all kinds of teams working on different things throughout all the colleges and the university as a whole, looking at, how are we going to have people and students in the fall? Because we will be open in the fall. What do you do if you have a professor that has some problems that make them really susceptible to COVID and it could be dangerous for them? Well, they're going to have to teach online and remote. So there's a lot of things you have to juggle. People walking down the halls, you all are facing this as well. But we've been collaborating with a bunch of other universities as well on these kind of topics. So we're sharing everything. All these schools are, the SEC Business School Deans meet for a couple of hours every month to talk about best practices, what we can do to open in the fall.
Thank you, Matt. I tell you what, that last comment, and I would ask you if you can get that information on those authors to the Plug and Play team, they'll push that out to everyone. But that last comment, I really loved what you guys are doing from the standpoint of collaborating also and sharing best practices as well as that framework. Let's go ahead and switch gears. Shelley, earlier, you talked about the electronic bill of lading and some things that y'all have done from a J.B. Hunt standpoint to utilize technology during this time. Talk about how you view innovation programs right now and how important innovation is. All the incredible work y'all have done on 360 and things like that. So Shelley, just talk about innovation, how important it is and how important it is now.
Thank you, Chris. So for us, we really think of innovation fueled with technology. And so we made a commitment in 2017 to spend $500 million over the next 5 years, focused in really 3 areas in technology, but I'm going to point you to the one specific area that we focused. So for us, we've earmarked nearly $224 million in a category we call disruption and innovation. And that really is being led from our customers. And so we are spending time with our customers to really identify where is there something that is working today, but really could be better through innovation. And, that's difficult in a very large company to say we're going to earmark this and we don't have all the details behind it, but it's been remarkable how much our customers have come to the table to say, we need, 1, 2, 3, and how we're focusing in on that. And I would argue, Chris, that we are even thinking in a broader context, how much more we can do from an innovative perspective. Some of our greatest ideas as an organization has come as a result of sitting down with our customers. So for example, our Final Mile Services segment actually broke out this year as a 5th business segment inside our company That came as a result of talking to a customer, one single
Hmm.
customer. And the question was, what do you need help with in your supply chain that really isn't working as well as you believe it could? And that started with a pilot and then obviously has moved into what has happened today inside our organization. So listening to our customers is so important. But the second thing I would say is listening to our people. With nearly 30,000 employees, so many of our people have really great ideas, but it's been difficult for us to source those really from what I would say our grassroots level up until 2015. So in 2015, we brought an outside company to help us through a project around innovation that we call Elevation. And that project allows people to submit their ideas that actually give the business case that either makes us a better company, stronger revenue, stronger performance for customers, or just a better place to work. And those get vetted, and we actually have a full team inside our organization that focus on what's happening in Elevation. The best ideas, Chris, actually come to our executive team on a monthly basis where we get an opportunity to hear from our best people and brightest ideas. And I think that that is a really great way for us to source information from someone that's sitting on the front line all the way up into our C-suite. Really, every single person has a voice. And we've also said that's a really great way for us to think about inclusion because every voice is equal in that scenario. So we've just completed over 20,000 ideas in our Elevation program. We implement around 8% of those ideas, and every year we have a theme as to what that means in total. And for example, we just added to our Elevation program, so the way they interact with us, we have added a diversity and inclusion idea center. So that was something we birthed in the last 3 months where our people can tell us exactly the things we need to be thinking about from an innovation perspective when it comes to D&I. We already had 3 submissions within the first 24 hours from our people. One of those, I'll tell you, we are in pretty big discovery phase on because we think it's a really great idea and just something we haven't thought of before. So for us, the voice of our customers and the voice of our people, that's where we really focus on innovation.
Shelley, that's excellent. Can you go just, we had a couple of questions that came in, but kind of what they centered around was, how do you get people to bring forth their ideas? Do you publicly recognize the people that brought ideas? Is there a financial incentive? How do you get people excited about and not fearful about bringing in ideas?
So really great question. For us, we do respond to every single idea. So any idea that is submitted into Elevation, we will respond with what we believe our next step is in the idea. So number one, our people actually hear back from us. It's not just a place, it's not a suggestion box. It's actually something that we will collaborate and have that discussion. We do recognize what we believe our best ideas are, and we have what we call our elevation wall. And so to get your name on the elevation wall, that's actually located right by our Million Mile Auditorium. And so for those that don't know, we recognize our drivers that have performed 1 million safe miles or more, and they have a full wall where their name is recognized. On the other side of that is our elevation wall. And so our people get the opportunity to get their names in lights, if you will, or their name in lights. And then they also get an opportunity to meet with John Roberts, our CEO. So I think we have been doing it for a period of time. When we first started it, Chris, we actually took the entire organization through the elevation process. So we pulled people out of our businesses and designated them into our auditorium. And that's all they did for a period of, I believe it was 16 weeks. All they did was work on and vet out through roundtable discussions, ideas. And that set in motion for our people that we want to hear from them, but also they got feedback on what we could implement. So we're constantly doing updates with Elevation. They can go and see where we're at any one time. But I think having a dedicated staff and our people knowing that we're going to connect at an executive level every month makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think that's great, Shelley. And I know what a big deal it is to have your picture on the wall. and the way you guys have done it with drivers
Mhm.
and how you recognize drivers from long-term service as well as safety. So it is a big deal at JB Hunt to have your picture. And so I just think that's a great idea. So thank you, Shelley. Hey, Tracy, let's go ahead and jump to you. Same question for you. How is Transplace using technology, and what does innovation look like right now during these times?
Sure. So obviously, people, processes, technology is at the foundation of what we do. I think, Chris, as I think about how we utilize technology during this time and innovation, it's critical. And like I was saying before, we relied and our customers relied heavily upon the investments that we were making in technology. And Shelley, much like yourselves, and I think it's the huge trend. Investments in technology are skyrocketing, and so if you look at where companies are putting their dollars, they're putting it into great people who can develop great technological solutions. So that's really where it starts for us, Chris. But I do think about, I was referring to things like control tower, predictive analytics around service that our customers were utilizing a lot during this time frame. They utilize them every day, but really relied upon those types of things during this time. Again, things like Risk Pulse, where it's predictive analytics utilization that helps understand, as people during the COVID time really want to understand, where's my shipment, because it was so critical during that time. People really wanted to understand what was happening. So that was very much in use and in flight. I think about technology that helped us from just an efficiency. We were talking about robotics and automation, the appointment scheduling demand. And Shelley, I know you guys probably felt the same. We could not have survived had it not been for the technology that we deployed and we're utilizing in scheduling appointments, particularly in the retail sector. It really helped us help our carriers with their operating efficiency at a critical time as well. And then I think about as that 4 to 5 week period where demand was really spiking and routing guides were not as tight and intended to have failure points in them. Being able to utilize carrier capacity solutions, our what we call internally our FAM tool, our freight allocation module, to help supplement capacity where our customers really needed it to move critical merchandise. And then again, investments that we continue to make in our TMS solution that just help make it incredibly more reliable for our customers. So all of those things and investments really paid off during this time and will continue to pay off in the future. When I think about innovation, exactly like Shelley stated, the best ideas come from really two places. Number one, our customers, and we have a customer advisory board, plus a regular flow and cadence of conversations with our customers about what do they see as their needs, and we synchronize our investments in technology to better support our customers' needs. That's really what we do. And then we also, much like Shelley's team, we have a DNA at Transplace Six Sigma mindset, and so it's a mindset around continuous improvement, finding loss, eliminating waste, and it's in the DNA for those ideas to bubble up and for us to act on, to find those ideas that are scalable, that also synchronize with what our customers need and what we need from an internal efficiency standpoint. So I think very similar in how the ideas are cultivated. You have to keep innovating. Our customers are innovating. Our customers' and the consumers are changing dramatically. And if you don't innovate, you will surely fall behind rapidly relative to what the needs are in the marketplace. So there's continued innovation, and it's just a requirement as fast as today's world's changing. So, Chris, I hope that answers the question, and then I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate that. Matt, let's go to you. We've got about 2 minutes and we're going to wrap up. But Matt, this same topic from a university perspective around innovation.
Our awareness of how much innovation we actually need has increased dramatically. Just to give you an example, I'll address this in two ways very briefly. One is that all of a sudden we have people teaching remotely and online that have never done it. And we have faculty that are experts at it. They're really good at it. We've got some that have never done it before, lots of them. And all of a sudden they're forced to do it, right? And so the good thing about that is they innovate. People start coming up with really great ideas on how to use all kinds of technology. Our problem is, how do you figure out what good practices have been created, and then how do you distribute it to other people? So we're going to see a ton of innovation from this, because this is going on at all universities just about. But the second is that I'll give you one quick example. If you're teaching, and let's suppose you've got 30 students face-to-face in the classroom spread out, and then you've got 66 students online at the same time, because there could be a rotation for certain classes. The technology to help someone teach the face-to-face people and still engage the people online is not there, in my opinion. We've looked at a lot of things. That's just one example. So there's tons of opportunity out there. And I think a lot of the technology companies aren't aware of these real simple problems that they could probably modify existing technology just a little bit and get to them.
Man, I appreciate it, Matt. I think the other thing, and you've really been an ambassador of this, is the whole area of creating an innovative environment and an innovative culture where people are constantly looking, searching, creating. That's always been a passion of yours. And I think that is real critical, especially during these critical times that we live in right now, where we all have to move fast and change fast. So I appreciate it, Matt. I appreciate what you said. Congratulations again on the recognition for the supply chain department. That is outstanding. And Shelley and Tracy, I really appreciate your input. I know there are a number of questions we did not get to. And so hopefully what we can do for those respondents that put in questions that we did not have time to answer, hopefully we can follow up with you and get you answers to those questions. So Haniel, I'll turn it back over to you, and thank you for the opportunity to share this morning.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much, Chris. And thank you once again to Tracy, Shelley, and Dean Waller. Really appreciate the insight on this panel.